Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Hotline League. It's an amazing episode because we have so much to talk about this week. Playoffs, week 1 is over. There are 4 matches and only 4 teams left. And there's a lot to get into because some stuff went down, some upsets occurred, and we're going to talk about that in this episode. But first, let me introduce my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm tired. There's 4 straight days of broadcast into this.
Yeah, why didn't you? I feel like everybody else got at least one day off.
No, not any of the analyst test people. We all worked all 4 days.
Oh, Kobe was here one of those days.
Yeah, because he's a fucking color caster and they're bums.
Oh.
Casters are bums. He works hard.
Wow.
Mark's the hardest worker.
That's probably true. He's the hardest worker on the broadcast, but whenever it comes to TGI stuff, today he sent me a message. He's like, "Hey, so about that blame game, do I really need to do a blame game?"
Yeah, I did ask that question because I am doing Hotline League tonight. I was trying to get off doing work today because I have all my meetings tomorrow for the show, which begins again on Thursday. So Wednesday's my only day off in like 2 weeks, a week and a half, I guess.
It's okay. You'll have a lot of time off in 2 weeks.
Oh, will I? That's news to me.
Is it? I mean, the LCS is over.
Yeah, but there's like this other thing that sometimes happens, and sometimes you need to slam watch like 15 different regions.
Ooh, is Mark actually going to do some international work?
Whoa.
Who can say?
So the teaser.
Who can say? It's for my blame games, in all the minor regions. Those ones always paying.
Yeah. Blame game. Why did this random seed die to this random seed?
Why did Brazil beat?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, shout out to Alienware for sponsoring the show. We will talk more about them in a bit. But our guest this week is none other than Revenge. How's it going, Revenge?
Hello. Pretty good. I was just working yesterday with Mark, actually working hard on the analyst desk and casting and interviewing. Actually, yesterday was a long day. Holy shit! But
that was a 3-game series, bro. What are you talking about?
Dude, honestly, analyst desk is some hard work, man. I'll say you guys do a lot. You guys gotta watch all the games.
That's a 3-game day. We didn't even record content between them. Usually on show days during the regular season, we're recording shit between the games as well as watching the games. Then after the show, you just went home. We did a 1v1 with some EG guys.
Well, yeah. Actually, I did watch some of that.
Yeah,
then you did the dive. Man, yeah. Okay, sorry. We just have to put it out there how hard of a worker Marx is just once again. But
yeah, just so no one thinks I'm like one of these pro players who's insanely lazy and entitled.
I know. But what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something. I was gonna ask, how many times have I been on this show now? This is like my 4th time.
Probably.
I think you might.
Probably like my 4th time.
I think so. You're probably the most common pro we've had on since like you joined the league. I don't think we've had anyone more than you.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say. I feel like
because you're actually down to do content.
It's really fun. Yeah, content is fun, and I'm on my off season, so I've been like thinking of ways to do non-league content recently. I was gonna like vlog myself rock climbing, stuff like that, but I don't know. I don't really know. Like I don't really know how to make. I don't know what content to make outside of league.
Have you had a complicated upbringing?
Have I had a conflict? I guess so. Yeah.
You should do a video talking about your upbringing.
Ooh, like my own the drive revenge drive made by Revenge.
An ironic self-produced drive would be pretty funny.
Yeah, actually, that drive. It's like bus by Revenge. Public
Holy
transit
shit.
by Revenge.
Not drive, public transit. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking I'm gonna actually go to finals. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, might do content there.
You can hang out in the like influencer area. There's always a bunch of cool people there to chat with and all that stuff. Did you go to any of the ones last year?
Yeah, I went to the Chicago one.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, I spoke with the LPP people yesterday to get me there, and I'm trying to potentially see if I can do anything on the analyst desk for some of the games, the playoff games. But I don't know if that's gonna. I don't know if that can happen yet. I'm still talking to them about that, but we'll see.
Cool. Well, we'll see how things go. But I mean, what was it like on the broadcast? You said, do the analysts actually do much work? I guess is a good, because Mark's sitting here putting himself up on the cross, but yeah.
I mean, I feel like it is work in the sense that like you're there for production. Like it's more like you're analyzing the games and stuff, and then you also have to think about how you're gonna display yourself on camera, which I think is like exhausting.
Like what you're gonna wear, and
or like all that stuff leading up to it, and then also like what you're actually like during the games, right? Like while we're watching the games, we see something we want to talk about, and it's like, okay, well, how can we display this? And then we look at like, okay, like EG's winning this game, but do we really want to look at this fight where they actually lost, and how are we going to frame it? And then we're going to have to talk about something after. Like it's a lot of thinking to like actually make it come out the way it does. So yeah, I would say it's a decent amount of work. Yeah.
Well,
I appreciate you not just taking the cheap shot.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I mean, it's a decent amount of work if, you know, the analysts or the people working there want to make it a decent amount of work, and I think that everyone cares a decent amount. So
who works
that's
harder,
nice to see.
pro players or the analysts on the broadcast?
I mean, pro players obviously, but yeah.
So here's a serious thought, like that branched off that, and we'll probably jump in case anyone's wondering why we're making fun of this so much. But I was talking to Jat about like, do you think any pro sport athlete in season works harder than a pro player of LCS? And I don't think any like T Sports athlete does.
Definitely not.
No, like they in the height of your time as a pro sport athlete in traditional sports, it's like maybe you're doing 2-a-days with like some warm-ups and cooldowns and like some VOD review in the middle. And that's like a standard day in LCS. And that's like the height of how bad your like non-game days are going to get for most sports.
Well, I mean, it's just different because you have to take into account like physical body recovery for most T sports.
Yep. And sorry, continue.
I mean, just for chat, that's T sports are like traditional sports like soccer, football, whatever, you know. But League, it's kind of like if you're trying to be the best, you're just playing like all day, every day, and yeah. I mean, you're like
there's
your
also
whole life is,
like
consumed by the game.
Well,
so
there's also a lot of
harder,
institutions.
I'm not talking physical. We meant hour investment. Like, is anyone putting more hours in? Obviously, your body breaks down. It's like it's good to keep playing or something like that. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying in terms of raw hours investment. Like, even in North America, people are like, oh well, Kobe worked X hard. That's every Korean pro, basically. Not every single one, but like the majority of Korean pros are probably putting in those kinds of like Kobe hours that he was like heralded as insano for.
I mean, the other thing is I just think that there's probably more institutional pushback against, you know, when you like the NBA has the players union or players association, et cetera, that like can help define what all that stuff looks like. And I just don't think that type of thing really exists in the same way in the LCS yet. So
yeah, I mean, it's obviously not one-to-one, but it was a thought experiment just to like walk through it. Because there's other things too, like a traditional sports athlete is going to travel a lot. Yeah. Like that's like I mean, initially Jet and I were like, that's really hard on your body that you're sleeping in hotel rooms every night. You're going across the country, blah blah blah. But then at the same time, we were like, well, when you're younger, a lot of these young athletes are going to strip clubs and blowing money at the bar. Plenty of nights during the week. Yeah. You know, like the things that people make fun of LA pros for, like ironically about like LCS pros are like, that's like actually what a lot of pro athletes are doing is, you know, J.R. Smith types. I know that's an outdated reference at this point, but like, yeah, that dude was getting fucked up at the club during the finals and stuff. You know, it's like,
yeah.
I mean, hey, listen, like, Worlds in China, there was definitely at least one pro player who was going out to a club.
Well, I will say it's at least from my experience and just from knowing pretty much what a lot of pros are doing in their free times, and like it's kind of talked about a lot, right? Like it's been very rare that there's a pro player that's like actively partying and doing stuff like during season all the time. Maybe like on off day, like not even on off day, like the day of the last LCS game. So like the night before your off day, I think that's like the most common case where like a pro will like nowadays do something like party or whatever, right?
Yeah, partying on a Sunday night. That's where all the best parties are.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
mean, but,
now
like,
there's Friday
I mean,
nights. So
no, it's Friday. Yeah, well, now it's Friday night, right? But it's like it's pretty rare that like yeah, we a lot of pros don't party during the split. It's really rare.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
I mean, it's just an interesting dichotomy as well, because we were talking about this. We were talking about, you know, like a lot of these guys also don't do any like hard social media stuff. And like that's what we're asking our pro players to do, is like, oh, not only do you have to like do all this time to be good at the game, which is already in terms of hours, obviously, I'm not saying physical or anything, but like hour wise, it's a pretty huge commitment. And then we want them to be doing content on top of it, where a lot of like pro players in other sports just like do their post game interview, and the media machine kind of runs actually without them very much, except maybe some Twitter.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, I mean, I took like a year of one of my pro career, like I think it was like last year. I pretty much like AFK'd social media entirely.
like all the
because
pros.
it's just, yeah, I was pretty much just doing what most pros do. I mean, it's hard, man. I don't know. It took me time, because like my first year, I felt like I was pretty active, and then I felt like I like was taking more and more hits on my mental, and I was like also dealing with stuff outside of like, you know, like just stuff mentally, like learning how to be a competitor, and like also just it just felt like social media and like putting myself out there was like an extra hurdle for me that was hard to handle. And then yeah, it just took me, I don't know, like this year was kind of different. I kind of approached things a bit differently. I felt like I learned a lot more from like my previous years. I felt like I had the capacity to do it and still like play well, so that's why I did it. But for a lot of pros, they might feel like it's too exhausting. Like they literally just, even if they want to, they might feel like they can't, even though they obviously probably could. It's just about how you feel doing it, right? And if you don't feel good doing it, you're not going to make good content anyway, right? So
yeah, I mean, I
just,
think there's for when we've talked about this before, is that people tend to think what, like whenever you say like social media or interacting or whatever, people tend to automatically just assume that what you're referring to is like going on Twitter and just replying to a barrage of hateful things. But in reality, it's like you've already, like you did the LCS broadcast yesterday, Revenge, where a lot of pro players might say like, no, I don't want to do that. You've been on Hotline League multiple times where we've literally had pro players be like, no, I don't feel like doing that. Like there's so many times where you say yes when others say no. And so I think that's the thing, is that people get distracted thinking that, you know, the only thing we're really talking about is Twitter or going on Reddit or something like that, when in reality there's a lot of opportunities for somebody who cares about doing content and helping to grow the league and sustain the sport. And I feel like you are one of the best people at doing that, which is one of the reasons why I invited you on the show today, even though Mark's like, oh, you just picked the person that was on the broadcast. It's because I know that you actually do care, and you will try, and you'll say yes, and yeah, it's good. Other pros just ghost me. Anyway.
Well, that's sad to hear. I mean, obviously I don't see that side of things, but I mean, I appreciate that as well. But it's also like, at least in maybe defense of some of the pros, they might mentally, they might just not be there and feel like they can handle that, you know? And I do know that a lot of pros have a lot of different personalities. Like they might find doing something like this just really overwhelming, and like kind of add on a lot of anxiety. They might need a lot of time mentally to prepare for it, and that's what I mean when I say like they're just not mentally ready for it.
Yeah.
So,
but there's always something you can do, right? Like,
yeah,
that is what I want us to get away from, this idea that like, oh, somebody feels too anxious to go on a live show for 2 hours. Okay, sure, completely get it. Then maybe consider writing up like a little thank you note to your fans and sticking it on Twitter, and not looking at any of the replies if you think that it's too much, or, you know, saying yes to the next short interview, or, you know, writing or doing a video where you talk about how your game went down or something, like a recent win that you liked. Like there are so many different options for so many different personalities and so many people who are capable of doing different things. And like that, I think I understand there are some people who are in a really tough place, and just the idea of adding anything else to their plate is too much. And so I don't think that like we need to have 100% participation from all 50 of these pros, but I do wish that there was just more people who understood that the league is struggling and that there is less of this stuff than ever before. And yeah, and it would be good to see that stuff. That being said, I'd push back against the idea that LCS pros are lazy.
No, I agree with pretty much everything you're saying though about that. Like I think every pro in the league could find their own niche for some kind of content. Like there isn't really an excuse for that. I think even if it's like I think it's the amount of content where you could use the excuse, right? But I do think that at some point every pro should, at least during the split, try something, whether it's streaming or whatever, like you said, based on their personality. That I think there's no excuse for. It's just the amount of content they make. I think that's what, that's where we go into like that gray area.
Yeah,
we were talking about. But yeah.
Well, anyway, Mecca says in the chat, Mark looks like he just wants to go to bed. So I guess we should get into calls. But
Mark has awful body language. That's my face when I don't care about like how I look. On camera, I have to force myself to sit like this at the analyst desk every time someone else is talking.
Oh man.
Yeah, Jat. Yeah. Not gonna fucking do that here. I don't care.
Okay. Anyway, this is where you get the real Mark Zimmerman.
Yeah, this is true. So Travis, obviously we're not going to go too deep into any of this, but like, who do you think had a worse take? Was it Jacob Wolf, or was it the Brandon Sanderson is your god author of that article?
Okay, so I don't really want to discuss the first person, because I feel like, I don't know, they just make me uncomfortable with. There's a bit of an obsession with me that I feel.
Where it's like if I say something, I'm going to be in big trouble.
No. I'm not afraid. It's just.
No, I know.
Like there's just somebody in the space who's just it literally makes me a little uncomfortable how obsessed they are. But the Brandon Sanderson thing, I think, is very, very funny for those of you that follow along with Brandon Sanderson stuff, or for those of you that don't, rather, the author that Mark and I really like. There's a guy who wrote an article for Wired, who basically last year spent, I don't know, several trips going to Salt Lake City to like do a profile on Brandon Sanderson. And his piece basically becomes, yeah, I went out there and this guy was just too fucking normal. He's just like a normal dude and people get excited about him, but I didn't know anything interesting to write about him. I thought he was boring, and all of his fans are fucking nerds. And like, it was so fucking bizarre. I was just like, this is just like, all it did, somebody else, I think The Guardian wrote, or maybe Telegraph or whatever, wrote like a really great counterpiece where it's like, this article actually just told you everything you need to know about the author and how much of an asshole they are, that it did actually give you any interesting thing about Brandon. I think
it was. Sorry, go ahead.
I think the fascinating thing to me, I was like, and I'll be honest, I did not read the entire article because I just started to like a gag reflex. I was just like, anyway, but it's like that cat on TikTok that tries different foods. But I think like there's some actually interesting stuff they could have got into there. Like, Brandon seems to be very progressive.
This isn't the Brandon Sanderson podcast. It was a joke. You're going deep into it.
Fine.
I'm not gonna. I don't even know who Brandon Sanderson is, so I'm just.
I know. That's why I'm like, let's get out of here, Travis. I know you and I could talk about it.
I just think it was a very fascinating piece of content. Mark?
Yes. You want to talk about how people get on the show and what we do here?
Well, really quickly, give us your media rundown from the past week.
Immediate rundown. All Pro was officially released.
No, your media rundown. You didn't watch anything. Okay, cool.
That kind of stuff. I think I meant like stuff I might have put out. I was like, I don't think I put anything out. God, what did I watch? We've been rewatching Star Wars, the original trilogy now. It's pretty good. Obviously, the special effects look like dog water now. But it's actually still pretty enjoyable. Yellow Jacket season 2 came out. That's true. God, there's so much stuff. Daisy Jones in the 6 we finished. Love is Blind new season is great.
John Wick 4.
Ooh, I haven't had a chance to watch John Wick 4 yet. I didn't go to the theaters this
Me
weekend.
neither. Me neither.
Busy.
But I
need
really
to
want
watch
to
that.
watch it. Yeah.
I need to watch that. I need to watch Dungeons and Dragons. I think Oppenheimer comes out soon.
I do want to see Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in the movies that I need to watch, but there's a lot of TV stuff that just came out too.
I watched Are You Smarter Than a Pro or LCS Analyst?
Wait, why was Fleshy's message deleted in chat? Catching up with Doublelift featuring Revenge, it just got insta deleted by Nightbot.
Because it has catching up with Doublelift.
Wait, actually?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Wait, what the fuck? Holy shit! Fleshy got headshot. Sorry, Fleshy.
Anyway, I watched the filming of Are You Smarter Than an LCS Analyst because they were piping that into the press room. So there's
you saw how terribly run that show is.
Dude, that thing is I don't know. You guys just I can't understand anything anyone's saying. They're all talking over each other at the same time. It's a miracle that thing becomes a viewable product at the end of the day.
Well, because all the microphones are isolated to separate channels, and so it doesn't matter. You just pull down based off like the single that you're in and stuff.
Yeah. But somebody has to sit there and like separate the signal from the noise.
Yeah, the editor, I feel bad.
Yeah. You guys are just screaming over each other. Mark's saying random. He's like 7, 12, 13, counting down time. He doesn't know how numbers work. All right, let's talk about what happened. So, as Mark said, All Pro was a thing. We got all of those out now. We have 4 games that occurred. I think the hottest topic tonight will probably be 100 Thieves because they're just the next whatever team Bjergsen is attached to is just the hot topic for the year where everybody talks about them whether or not they're winning or losing. Was TSM, then last year was Team Liquid. Now it's 100 Thieves. What else? We've got obviously our matches coming up this week. 2 more matches to go. One of those teams will not be making it to Raleigh. The other 3 will. And only 2 will be making it to MSI. We'll find out one of them this week. So there's a lot to dig into. Anything else that I am forgetting? Twitch chat? Mark?
Nope.
Revenge?
Nope. Not that I can think.
Those are our big topics. You can... we're not going to go over the rules because we're already 30 minutes into the show.
I spammed the link in there in Twitch chat. You can scroll up if you didn't see it. If you don't know how the show works, you're dead.
Yes. Anyway, Mark is going to be pulling, or he's already pulled somebody.
I'm going to go get them and just get the show going.
Yeah, go do it. Nemsic, why are you leaving? Okay, where are we on shout-outs? Thank you, Badger Yarg, Avocado, Rambling, FC, LOL Globus, Benjean, Hobnobbin, and Mind Turtle. Thank you, everybody, for the subs. Very much appreciated. We got Bigby here. Bigby, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from West Texas.
West Texas, and what do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take was that EG are frauds. They are single-handedly ruining playoffs, and it's going to be a shame that we're going to see C9 or Fly go down instead of them this week.
Wait, who are frauds? Sorry.
EG.
EG. Oh, boy. Okay. So they're ruining playoffs. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I think just their level of play is lacking. Like they are far away from the EG that they used to be. I find their games are extremely boring. Like as a whole, it's really boring to see a major team stomp a lower team, and that's just not fun to see overall. So having to sit through that game with CLG was a nightmare. And I just think that I would much rather watch either C9 or Fly in the finals together than just watching EG just fly through the lower bracket.
So they can be in the finals together.
Ooh, wait, what?
So because there's a lower bracket, whoever loses on Thursday will face the winner of Friday's game in Raleigh.
Oh, okay. Well,
and then whoever wins that goes to finals day.
Oh well, I think C9 or Fly are not going to make it through lower bracket then.
Oh, okay. So wait, EG are frauds, but they're going to eliminate either FlyQuest or Cloud9?
They're frauds that like to take away, that like to beat people. So they're not good enough to make it, but they are good enough to beat down the other teams.
Wait, what are
That
they
would be
not good
BA.
enough to make?
If they make finals, then they've made it to MSI.
I don't want them at MSI though.
Okay. We're gonna recontextualize your take a little bit so that Twitch chat
Let me
can calm
reframe
down.
this take. I think
So your take
you
is
don't like EG.
your take. No. Your take is you're disappointed because you feel like even if EG wins, that the better representative would be either FlyQuest or C9. This is all assuming Golden Guardians is out. FlyQuest or C9, because you don't think that even if EG wins or does well domestically, that they would be as competitive internationally as FlyQuest or C9.
Yes.
Okay, that's a little. We could do a little bit more with that.
People are flaming my take choice here. This is Hotline League. He put this take in. It got 5 thumbs downs immediately, so I pulled it. All right.
All right.
Well,
So
actually,
revenge.
Can I ask a question? So what about EG's playstyle don't you like? Like, what did you see with how they were playing against CLG that you didn't like exactly?
It's just that I don't think FBI and Vulcan just don't really like. Vulcan gets put up there as one of the best, but I think he's pretty lackluster. Like he seems to be making plays that don't really just add up with how EG want to play. Like, I mean, JoJo is kind of a loose cannon. We don't know if he wants to win or end half of the time, and I feel like we could be seeing a lot more of Sunday than just sticking in him on tanks. Like we remember the Garen game where he did amazingly. So I think we can just be seeing a lot better from them.
Well, okay,
And
so like part of what you're saying is true. Like I do think that EG's like full potential, especially with what they did even show against CLG, even though it was a 3-0, is not still up to par with like what we expected. Like we thought that this team's gonna be at the level of like C9 and FlyQuest, which I don't think that they did show in the CLG series. So I'll agree with that. But I will say that if they are gonna get to finals and if they are able to actually win against Fly or C9, if they get there, you know, if they beat GGS, I think that they will have shown those things though, and they will have shown the ceiling of their potential, you know. So I don't think that you're necessarily wrong in being upset with like how they were playing against CLG if you're, you know, considering them like one of the best in NA, which is what you might have expected with this roster. But I will say that if they are gonna make it to finals, they will have like tapped into that, and I think that the roster definitely has that potential. Like you said, like, yeah, we saw Someday playing tanks, but that doesn't mean that if they go into a series against Cloud9 and Fudge is like, I don't know, blinding a carry, that Someday won't counter him with a carry, for example, you know? Like, we don't know what we're going to see. So that's why I don't understand why you're like, you know, so down on them in a way.
Counterpoint.
That's how I feel.
Revenge. You said you were going to agree with every caller tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I semi-agreed with him, you know, but you know,
I think
like,
Revenge gave a charitable interpretation of this
Yeah.
take. I think I agree. EG doesn't look like 100% super clean, but like C9 didn't either. EG was more dominant in their win over CLG than C9 was. I think CLG played better in the C9 series, so it's not like
yeah,
100%.
that's big. That's big, yeah.
Yeah, like Luger was kind of trolling some situations that he didn't troll in the C9 series, and yeah, there's just a lot of stuff. Palafox had some off games and whatnot, but I think like the reason EG played this way is because good draft. Like I don't think you should be upset at a team for having studied their opponent well, came up with a good game plan, and were able to win 3 times on red side. When like you watched other series where like people couldn't get a game, or like maybe there's a single win on red side across the series. Like, you know, the fact they ripped off 3 wins, the fact that this like counterpick Malphite was like being as annoying as it was. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of things that like I would like to see maybe some small improvements in like some of their lanes as well as some of their skirmishing and team fights and stuff like that. Like there's things that EG can do better, but like yeah, I don't really fault them for that. Even like FlyQuest beating 100 Thieves had some games where like Doublelift got massively ahead and they had to win some late game team fights to get in. Like every single team that you're saying is better than EG had games where they made blunders. C9 had a terrible team fight versus CLG, like the Kennen game. You know, like these kinds of complaints kind of exist for everyone. If you're going to nitpick EG like this, like these complaints exist to every team.
Yeah, that's a good take, actually, Mark. I actually think that a lot of the playoff games were messy, even from the top teams. So,
yeah. And to go global, like fucking T1's getting slammed to, you know, in the telecom war game 5. I went to fucking bed during that one. It was 3:30. I pulled my phone up for game 5. I see KT, 8 kills or whatever it is, up 2K. I'm like, all right, going to bed. Wake up next morning, boom, T1 win. What happened there? You know, like every series has these ups and downs and stuff like that.
Well, question, Bigby, do you have any rebuttals or thoughts on any of this?
Yes, it's just I guess I apologize for the for the confusion at the beginning. It's just I guess my main worry was MSI. So I just think that we have a lot better representatives than we are getting from EG, and I just I guess
why are
it's
you
just
so
a feeling.
confident that they're making it to MSI?
EG?
Yes.
I hope they don't, but it's just like I said, they're good enough to stomp, but I don't think good enough to show what NA is made out of.
So if C9 or FlyQuest lose to EG in the losers bracket, why would they do better against international competition if they can't even beat EG?
C9 or Fly?
Yeah, so C9 or Fly, you're saying represent NA better if
Yes.
they make it international. But if they don't go, it's because they lost to EG probably. But if they lost to EG, why would that make them good internationally if they can't even beat EG, who are frauds?
Fly, I would say it doesn't hold up, but I think C9 is just a lot more adaptive than both of those teams combined. Like, I think they can just adapt to the meta a lot faster, and overall, they are the strongest team we have.
I mean, one answer, Mark, I'm not saying I agree with this, but you could say that Fly and C9 can do a lot more with their time leading up to MSI. You feel like they have a higher ceiling. If they get through, they can adapt faster, they can learn a lot more, and they will be more competitive because of that.
I guess.
I'm just positioning it as a reason why somebody could say, oh, you know, I think that these two teams have far more potential in an international environment to learn and grow than EG.
Yeah, but you know, I will say the most important thing, like that's all secondary. In reality, the most important thing is being able to consistently show up, and therefore being able to beat the competition in the moment in NA. Like if you cannot do that, then you have just as high of a chance as going internationally. And yeah, even if you're better at adapting to the meta, all that stuff, you might still have a higher chance to just not show up and int. So
I mean, this is the age-old argument for anyone not wanting a certain team to go. Like whenever Team Liquid was tearing things up, people, or TSM, it was the old like Bjergsen team thing where it's like, hey, these guys only win because they outscale and they just play a little better. They wait for the other team to mess up, and then they win that way. So then they like get themselves to these international events where they can't do that against better teams, and it'd be better to send a like more messy or chaotic team that has a better chance of upsetting or doing something interesting in the early game. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're just kind of back to that.
I've never really bought into that idea fully. I mean, like, I do think it's sad when that team wins and then you see like them do worse than the second or third team, you know, who has this more aggressive play style and burger flip things at international. Like, that's where the idea comes from. But like, it's not like the fourth seed is the one who's going to do that, you know? It's not like, oh, well, I don't know. If this team is losing the EG and losers bracket after losing to FlyQuest or C9 as well, you know, like, well, they probably just weren't that good, honestly. It's how I kind of always felt about that.
Thanks so much for the call, Bigby. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I want to shout out you guys. I actually met Travis and you, Mark, during TGI World Tours Atlanta.
Ooh,
and
nice.
I really love that show. So, and I hope Worlds comes to NA again. So hopefully that can start again.
Yeah, hopefully Mark and I are still alive by that point in time. Thank you so much for the call.
Who dies first, you and me, Travis, or the LCS by the next Worlds in NA?
I don't know. It depends. I guess that's a fascinating. It's actually a fascinating question because you're basically asking Will Global League of Legends far outlast the LCS?
That's a subcomponent of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that is you have put a like very fascinating question into a very stupid.
And to be fair, dead can be like Osh dead, not like it's like technically it's kind of there, but like it's yeah.
Thanks so much for the call, Bigby, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
All right, off to the next caller. Mark is on his mission.
That call was a journey. Holy shit.
Mind Turtle 27, Xander Gage for 2 years, Fishy, Pouncing Sang, and Dasher. Thank you, everybody, for the subs. Mark should be back with our next caller momentarily. And when he does... Oh, there we go. Datapig is here. Datapig, where are you calling from?
Well, I don't know if this is working. I couldn't hear him in the waiting room, but sometimes we have that Discord bug.
Datapig.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, there it is.
Where are you calling from?
Oh.
Datapig?
Okay. Hey, yeah, sorry. I'm calling from Salt Lake City, Utah.
Salt Lake City. I played Magic the Gathering there last
Is Brandon Sanderson your god?
No.
All right. Anyway, what do you want to talk about, Datapig?
I'm not sure. I had 2 takes. I had one about Emenes and I had one about the casters, so I'm not sure which one I got pulled for.
Probably the Emenes one.
Mark,
right.
even Mark doesn't know.
Well, because I didn't see his second take, and I remember in Emenes one, I thought, yeah.
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
Emenes.
So my take is Emenes is a liability. He's becoming a liability. And he's going to be the reason why Cloud9 doesn't win the finals. And let me preface this with I'm a C9 fan, but his last 2 weeks have not been very impressive. Obviously there's the O10 Jace, and his Jace gameplay has been a liability. His game against CLG where he was on Cassante, he didn't really do anything the whole game. So I just kind of worry that he'll get exposed against if Vikla plays well. I think he'll get kind of exposed.
Mark, do you like regular M&Ms or peanut?
I don't talk about M&Ms because they're over-sexualized candy.
Oh, God.
I'm with... Who is that? Tucker Carlson who made this?
Revenge. Man, we are talking about a lot of extreme people today on the show. Revenge. What? Revenge. What? How do you? In what way do you agree with the caller? Since you said you'd agree with all of them.
Oh well, I mean, I will say that I do think that he's shown inconsistency, but I think that it's a bit unfair to rule him as a problem yet from those games, just because I feel like if you want to target Emenes' inconsistency, you can actually look at probably every other mid laner in the league right now, including Vikla, by the way, and look at their inconsistency as well. So that's how I would disagree. I don't think that his inconsistency is to a point that it's overshadowed his good performances, because I feel like he's actually had really, really good performances, and he's playing team fighting, especially post lane phase, really, really well in a lot of other games. So I feel like it's a problem where his lows just look really low, but his highs are also really high. And I feel like he's not more of an issue than, I mean, if you want to spotlight Vikla, Vikla was, I think, even more of an issue than Emenes. If you and Vikla had more games, so he has an even more pool to look at. So yeah, that's just what I would say. It's my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like Emenes was fine in that series. I don't think he was insano, but his Yone game was really good. I think he had a number of huge ultimates to help keep that game heavily in their favor. I think the Cassante mid games, the way C9 do it is they use Cassante blind to bait a counter pick and then counter pick the counter pick. They did that in the regular season. They did it again here. And so I don't care if he doesn't pop off in lane. His team fighting on Cassante isn't crazy. It's even that game that they won where he did that other one in the regular season. He did almost nothing that entire game.
Yeah, that was against us. That was
oh, haha! Yeah, Fudge got the counter pick on you for that one.
Yeah,
but yeah, you can tell me if you remember him doing anything in that game. I personally don't.
I mean, he nullified Zoe with Combat Sum, which, I mean, that was his job. And I mean, to be honest, in the game against CLG, the reason it looked worse than in our game is because I think that, Kennen just doesn't counter Gwen as hard as, for example, Jace counters Fiora, and I think that Jace actually beats Cassante, and he was matched against Jace. So I do think that it was a bit harder of a situation, and they were also the CLG game. They were constantly lane swapping and stuff. So I feel like again, we'd have to see more to judge. Like you said, Mark. Like I think we have to see how he actually performs when it comes to team fighting and all of that on the champion. Which maybe we'll see in the Fly series. We don't know, but yeah.
I felt like his Yone game was good. His LeBlanc game was good. I think his Cassante game, you're just doing that to try and get pressure in the side lane. And Fudge had an off game that game, so his little sacrifice didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then I think the Veigar game, or the Jace game against the Veigar, I don't remember it being great or terrible. I can barely remember that game, to be honest. I just remember the Soraka being really fucking annoying. So I remember Sven's Soraka more than anything, just like constantly healing up Maokai.
I'm curious to see how Emenes evolves over time with C9, because I feel like these players who end up being very, very high variance with high highs and low lows, I feel like they don't tend to last super long on teams. Like over time, like their moments of failure stand out more and stick in people's minds. And I don't know, maybe the team gets frustrated or something where the stuff starts to build up. But, I feel like he's going to have to fix that if he wants a long time career with C9.
I will say something about that. I think a big thing has to do with the team frustration, because a lot of times the performances that we'll see on stage are reflective of things that might have happened in practice, right? Like people sometimes have really int games in scrims, and you just chalk it up and go, okay, is this a scrim? We really hope we don't see something like that on stage. But then when they go on stage and have that same performance, and that happens consistently, that really does affect the team, because now when it does happen the next time in practice, and the next time and the next time, you're like, oh shit, like we can't trust this guy anymore. We don't want to play this champion anymore. We don't want to do this thing anymore. So I think it is like people, like we all sometimes meme and we say scrims don't matter, but like they do quite a lot for a team's like trust in a player and understanding of what you guys can actually make work as a team, right? So so I do agree with that point, Travis. I actually do wonder how Emenes will evolve as well, because he's not like a rookie or anything, by the way. Like this guy's been a pro for some time, if I'm not mistaken. So
he's been around for like 3 or 4 years. This is his first major region team, but like I don't know, it's something that the two concerns are like the long term, is he going to start causing friction, and then I think even on the short term, like I thought he was fine this series. I thought he was good, not incredible, but fine. I wonder if he ever has like a turbo int game like he had in that Jace game, if he can bounce back. Or if that just dooms the series. But aside from that, I think he's fine. I don't think he's a weak link on the team. I think there's a reason that C9 looked so much better after he joined, even though the record was the same. And I think he matches the identity that C9 want to play. They want to play 3 lanes of prio almost every game. They want to play aggressive. They want to have flexibility in champ pool. He fits that identity extremely well. So I think he's really good for C9.
Yeah, we'll see how things go. Either way, thank you so much, Datapig.
You should love him. He's hilarious too. As someone just pointed out in Twitch, his stream's great. He's a funny dude.
Yeah, he's hilarious. But I guess part of my bias too is if you watch his stream, sometimes he's just like running it like half of his games. Like they're a lot like those Jace games on his stream.
Did you watch Champions Queue JoJo games?
Yeah, those are pretty funny too.
Mark,
oh shit.
I've been hurt too many times. All right, these pros, I start to like them, I get attached, and then they leave.
Travis,
they go to Europe, or they go to Asia, or they go to Academy and then wash out. Like the league, you cannot get attached to any pro player in this league anymore, unless their name is Double After Bjergsen.
Travis,
sorry, Revenge.
You can't you must let love in. You can't close your heart off to these new.
I've been hurt too many times, Mark.
You cannot allow the trauma of them leaving you to stop you from letting someone new into your life, because you'll just grow old and tired and alone with double lift on your couch, and that's it.
The Mark's guru, holy shit.
That's the only way to stay safe. All right. Anyway, thank you, Datapig, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Shout out Alienware and shout out you guys. You guys are awesome. Thanks.
Thanks so much for the call.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we can do one more call before we take a quick break. Thank you to Dasher777, Townhouse LLC, Doc Trevel, and Jaffe58 for 30 months. Thank you, everybody, for subbing. Really appreciate it. All right. What are you guys talking about in chat? Okay, Dr. Ducky is here. Dr. Ducky, where are you calling from?
Hello, YouTube. Hello, Twitch. I'm calling from.
What? Did you forget?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Where are you calling?
I'm getting stage fright. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Listening to the stream and I hear myself on delay.
Yeah. Don't
I'm calling from Livonia, Michigan,
okay.
just outside of Detroit.
Gotcha. Is there somebody in the room with you telling you where you're supposed to say you're from?
No, he did. Hey, it's his first time on the stream. He did the thing where he forgot to mute the stream before I pulled him in.
Yeah, you are 100% correct.
Dr. Ducky, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Me. So my take is that the LCS Spring Split MVP should come from Golden Guardians, and that there is a strong case to be made for every single player on Golden Guardians.
Okay, well, just so you know, all the voting is done.
I know. I had this take baked up a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't make it. Unfortunately, I know, but yeah.
Is there a Golden Guardians member in the room with you? Are you at the Golden Guardians facility and they're showing you're like, where am I from? And somebody holds up a sign that says Livonia, Michigan.
No, see, this is a Golden Guardians member, and he was trying to think of a fake town.
Yeah,
I've never heard of Livonia.
He's like looking around.
Unfortunately, Livonia is a real town, 90,000 people.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Anyway, yeah, and Narrow's there, just looking big and buff with his
arrows over my shoulder.
The tattoos. Okay. So what?
I have little notes for each player if you want me to go through.
Well, I don't want to do 5 players, so why don't you give us your strongest 3?
Okay, yeah. So Gory, because he made the first team All Pro, I think he's actually the most likely to get MVP of any player on Golden Guardians. Not necessarily like overall MVP any player, but just because of the way that affects points and stuff. But he had really strong showings against a lot of the top mids. He had very good synergy with River. I think mid jungle synergy is very important. Other candidate, Stixay, he has been having a career renaissance, which is very impressive after being in the leagues for so long. He's been very consistent. He's been able to solo carry. He's becoming a very clutch player as well. So eye test really makes him look a lot better than some of the other potential options. But my personal pick actually is Huhi. And for the reason of I think he's just kind of the glue man. He's kind of the guy that makes the whole roster work. He is, I would say, the most valuable player to his team's success, because I think if you put another support here, you have very different results. And like you could possibly even hot swap like other, like I feel like if you put like Contracts and Palafox mid jungle, like you have a very like he's the guy though. That's
okay.
Kind of,
so I was going to tell you when you got done, like, hey, there's no way that Golden Guardians is getting an MVP for this, but I want you to really know that there's no way he's getting it, right?
No, I understand that he's a support.
Okay. Well, I don't think that's the only reason. Anyway, all right. So I think part of the challenge is
topic to discuss possibly.
I think part of the challenge is I don't think that many people put much stock in Glue Man. for MVP discussion. You know, Dr. Ducky.
Okay.
So I don't like the challenge is you kind of need something a little more tangible than like he holds the team together and makes them work. I'm curious if you have anything a
Yeah.
little more tangible.
Yeah. There's been
okay. You go first.
Okay. We've had multiple interviews with Licorice and Stixay, where they mention how he came into the team and he kind of changed the culture as well. And I want to kind of point to that. I mean, it's more of an intangible, but it's kind of like he like motivated the rest of the team to kind of get better, you know? And he was coming from this rather successful 100 Thieves roster. So obviously something was going right there as well, because they made 3 back-to-back finals.
Right.
So he was, he's good.
I will say, I think, I would say there's no argument for that. I do think Hu He is good, and he probably does provide a lot of intangibles as a player. We'll never really know fully. That's just the thing about a lot of players. You actually don't know a lot of intangibles a lot of players do bring to teams, but so yeah, I mean, no doubt, I will give Hu He credit where it's due. Like I do think he did have a great split, and he left 100 Thieves and kind of still carried some of that success with him, so that does mean something. But I mean, to your original take that every single player deserves MVP in summer, I mean, I do think we can like step back and kind of agree that that's a little bit of a cap take. Like
I lied a little bit. I lied a little bit.
Well, yeah, let's tone down the cap a little bit on that, and I mean,
listen, my two of my favorite players are you, Revenge, and Licorice. But yeah, Licorice did not have the best regular split.
Because like
so
I mean,
I wasn't making
I mean, when we're talking about MVP, we're talking about literally the best player of the split. We're talking about that's comparing to like Berserker performances, Prince performances, things like that, right? Like, so that's why like obviously your take was a little crazy,
Well,
but
I have a question. I have to get this out there.
Yep.
Do you think that they got 6th place in the regular season because the glue man didn't have enough glue, or was it the things that was being glued together? Like if the glue was if it was so valuable, that glue, why didn't it place better than?
They were huffing it a little too much, Mark.
They it depends. I'm just saying it kind of depends on what your definition of MVP actually ends up being. Yes, they did kind of flub at the end, but we can all agree that they definitely overperformed, and I don't think they overperform with a different support player. Like the definition, it's in the name, most valuable player to that team.
No, it's
to
not.
that team's success.
That's not in the definition. No.
That's kind of how I read it. Like
I mean that's part of the problem is that there's never a really. It's not very. It is intentionally undefined, I believe. Like
right.
When Mark and I and Revenge, if he was the one that voted for, when you look at the thing, there's no. It just says MVP.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't say
MVP,
like
TTT,
yeah.
MVP to that team.
Yeah.
No, I mean it's supposed to be the player that kind of the way I interpret it that really stuck out the whole split, and kind of was a big reason for that team success, or just a shining light in a way, like someone that kind of drawed your attention and really had good plays, good stats, overall consistent performances. That's kind of how at least I viewed MVP, and I won't lie, like I don't think anyone in my top 3 even stood out for Golden Guardians to be on the MVP list. Like I think the only person you could like really make a case, like maybe if I'm going like 1, 2, 3, is like maybe Gory at number 3, because I will agree that he had a lot of like really standout performances, and he like I think was obviously he got first all pro mid, like you said, like he was definitely the most consistent mid laner this year, I would say. And he did kind of give that level up to Golden Guardians that they really have been lacking these years. But yeah, like there's just, even then, like there was just other players that had more, that were giving more, so Yeah, that's
Ben
all I'll say about
Didn't
that.
even have Huhi in his top 3 supports. What did Travis have? Travis, media. Where is this guy? Where the fuck are you, Travis? Did you not vote?
I did vote.
Oh, there he is. TGI. All right, let's see. No. Oh, he made it at the end. River and Huhi at the end. Look at that. MVPs right there. And Gory first team.
Yeah, people in the
What a
chat were
base
trying to say
ballot.
I was so biased against Golden Guardians at the start of this conversation, but I think I probably gave Golden Guardians more credit than others.
Yeah, I didn't have River in mine.
That's just what I like about this particular topic is like there is so much to talk about, and I don't think anyone is wrong for thinking my interpretation of most valuable player is wrong, because
I think people who
Yeah.
think that all of the Golden Guardians players could deserve MVP, those people are wrong.
I
be
don't
clear.
see how they could all be the most valuable player to their team, even using your own definition. Like, if you thought that the award was just who meant the most to their team, how can 5 people mean the most to their team?
I think the take was that there is a case that can be made for each player.
Yeah, that is incorrect. Maybe a really shoddy case.
Yeah.
There's a case for it, like a cardboard box is a house.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. You can make a case for anything.
Yeah. Well, that's a great argument to end this on. Dr. Ducky, anything you want to shout out before we take a quick break?
Yeah. I would like to shout out two of my friends, Garrett, for getting me into League of Legends in 2012. I will never forgive you for that. And my friend Fawaz, who got me into watching professional play. And then also, I just want to shout out the LEC. It's a better region. Thank you.
Oh,
Goodbye.
get the fuck out. What a jerk.
Why?
We thought the whole time that it was a Golden Guardians person sitting in the room with him, but it was actually an LEC person. All right. We're going to take a quick break to talk about Alienware. Alienware is our sponsor for this episode and for so many episodes, for so much content. Really appreciate Alienware for everything that they do. They make stuff like this show possible, so thank you, all of you, for supporting Alienware. One thing I've noticed is that a lot of you, I mean, you've been doing this for years, but especially recently have been shouting out Alienware at the end of these calls or leaving comments about it or Twitter or stuff like that. That stuff helps more than you know. It is actually very, very helpful, and it is something that has been meaningful for the relationship with Alienware over the years. And so if that is something, if you do purchase an Alienware product, if you do appreciate their support of the show, if you feel like it is impactful, please, shoot them a tweet or leave a comment or shout them out when you come on the show or any of those types of things. It is very wonderful. And you can also not just let them know that you appreciate it, but you can also go to alienware.com/Travis and access all sorts of awesome things through that you can grab. Accessories, monitors. They've got a brand new monitor coming out. Notebooks, desktops, all sorts of fantastic things for your gaming experience. So thank you so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. There's a link in the description below if you're watching on YouTube. Thank you to Alienware for sponsoring Hotline League. All right. Off to the next caller.
All right.
Thank you to... Oh, I was going to shout out a sub, but there's been no new subs, so Revenge and I will just sit here in silence.
Well, what do you think about OEC this year, by the way? Do you think
I haven't been watching.
I don't know.
There's too many splits. I can't keep up.
I actually think overall NA is stronger than OEC this year, but we can talk about that later.
That's the hot take we should have.
Wait, what did you say?
He said LCS is stronger than LEC.
From watching like all the games, I actually think overall.
I mean, we're actually always overall better than them. They just usually have one good team.
No, I actually think that was not true. I actually think last year overall LEC was probably better. I think this year though, for sure, I think LCS overall is better. Like just look, yeah, I think for sure. Yeah, that's my take. But we can talk about that later. But, yeah.
Lord Audie, welcome to the show. Where are you calling from? Lord Audie, welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Where are you calling from?
From New York City.
From New York. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take is that Team Liquid should keep their roster if they actually want to have a chance to make it to playoff in 2023.
Okay. Well, Where did they finish? They finished 8th place, right? 7th?
That is correct.
So I agree with you because in summer, playoffs are top 8. So all they need to do is perform exactly the way that they did, and they'll have a chance at making playoffs. A very good chance.
And that's all they need.
Okay, so there's a lot that happens after you make it into playoffs. You could ask 100 Thieves, for instance, if all they needed was to make it into playoffs and see how they're feeling right now. Why is that all they need?
I mean, I can so to make the argument. First one, consistency. We value that. You value that, right? You know, they keep the same players, they keep the same synergy, and they get better.
But what synergy? If we won't want them to keep the same synergy. We want them to increase the synergy.
I mean, they have 2 world champion players. How many FlyQuest have? Only 1, right? How many Sin I have? 0. 2
Okay, so
world
then why
players,
is Team Liquid not in playoffs?
Why is Team Liquid 7 places below? Maybe world champions are the problem. It's actually seems to correlate with less world champions.
I mean, you have Core JJ, the man that made it to the Worst 22 video without having actually going to the place. So how can you argue with a player like that made it to the promotional video?
I can hear you smiling through the
Yeah,
calls
okay.
as you say that, bro.
Lord Audie,
laughing at your own take.
Lord Audie, do you actually think they should keep their 5 players?
I do believe. I really hope they do. I really hope they do.
All right,
Why?
We did have this take last week, but I want to pull Revenge's opinion on it. We don't have to belabor this. I think Travis and I made our case last bit. But I gotta say, the Core JJ being so good that he can attend international events he doesn't qualify for is a pretty gigabrain take.
Here's the thing. Revenge has to say that they need to keep their players because Immortals finished below Team Liquid. And so if he's saying, yeah, if you're an 8th place team, you have to make changes to your roster. What does that mean about the 9th place team in the league?
We're mind gaming right now. Well, speaking as if I was a GM, if I was, which I'm not, I am a player. I would say that I do think I do think that there's some consistency that's good to keep, but I will say that it depends on what their aspirations are. I think that team's aspirations is to, win worlds, right? Like literally, that's what they said. So if you're not making playoffs and that's your that is your team's aspirations and that is what you're being paid and that is what, your whole motivation is and that's what the coaches are instilling into the players. Like I think that, from a management side, I don't know if you would want to keep the same roster then if you didn't make playoffs. But
unlike Immortals, right, where your goal is to just fucking pound some brewskis with the boys and just
I think that every team's goal should be to try to make worlds and win worlds. But it's more like if you had that expectation put on you in that split and you were told, hey, if you guys don't do this, it's a complete failure. I won't lie, that is not what I was told by my management on Immortals, right? That's just not the type of pressure that every team puts on every player. It's just depending on, for example, what the budget of their team is, right? That's just the reality. So our goal to split in spring with our roster and our rookies was to make playoffs, and we failed, But,
okay.
For example, so to go, to take it away from Immortals, but back to TL, it's their goal wasn't just to make their goal was to get first place and go to MSI and win MSI, and they didn't. So that hits way harder, and they're gonna be. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what they'll do, to be honest. But they will probably make changes if I had to guess.
I feel like they need to work less hard because that was their whole thing. That they were gonna work harder than everybody.
Oh, that was so. Oh, God, that was so bad. By the way, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I just have to say, that was so cringe because I could smell the burnout miles away, dude. Oh my God. I'll give you guys a little insider. I stayed with Jan in Korea for a week. I boot camped in Korea with my team. He boot camped with his team. Both of us ended up staying a little longer because we're hard workers, right? And we ended up staying together in a hotel, and I remember him telling me, he's what their schedule was going to be like. before the split even began, what it's been like, and I'm like, dude, that shit sounds like you guys are gonna burn out before the split even starts. Like, I don't know, like
Revenge. They
I'm just
finished
gonna say-
higher than you though. They outworked you.
they did outwork us, but holy shit, dude, I don't
They
know.
have 2 world
Like,
champions, and they finished 1 spot ahead of Revenge.
and then Core came out with the
Revenge just tried a little
article.
harder.
They came out with the article about like work-life balance is a mirage thing, which is like there's some truth in it, but yeah, not really. You know, I feel like everyone's different. Literally, that's the only thing I say. I think everyone is different with how they manage their competition and their level of play.
I heard that
So-
90% of pro players are the same though.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's yeah, that's all I'll say on that. So
Oh, it's so fun to slip in.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think that continues to be the most interesting thing to me about all of this is, and I feel like it's not getting enough discussion. And I don't bring it up as a means of like dogging on good old Team Liquid. I just think if you're going to come out, you're going to do a video saying we're going to work harder than everybody else and we're tired of all this laziness and blah, 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 blah. And then you finish in 8th place. That is...
it's tough.
It's just like... It's not a good look. I think for a couple of reasons. One, for all we know, they did burn out. You know, like perhaps there is a world where like you can work too hard and then the diminishing returns hit and you start to fall off or something, or you don't give yourself enough time. I mean, we don't know enough about what was going on behind the scenes at Team Liquid other than what they've told us, which is that they were working harder than everybody. And I think there is something to be said for like recuperating, for giving time to like process what happens in a day-to-day period. Like I don't know. I think the only reason I hope that like if Team Liquid does not do well again in summer and they have a similar roster but they continue with the mentality of we're going to work harder than everybody, I hope that it kind of pushes back against this idea of like just fucking push as hard as you can. And Mark and I have talked about this on the show, and I know Mark, you are even more of a believer in grinding than I think I am, but
Well, I was going to say, I think my takeaway is that they just didn't work hard enough.
I
work
know.
even harder.
Yeah.
They should have worked 20 hours. I mean, there's
Did
only
they sleep?
24 hours.
You don't need to sleep.
Facts.
I mean, I know we're being ironic about it, but you know, it was in my first year of LCS. I actually remember it was when we were leading into summer playoffs. Gihoto told me, he was like, "I want you to play even better. So, like, you need to figure out everything more you can possibly do." Like, he was pushing me, you know, and I did really like. I think I pushed myself like pretty close to burnout, and it did help me with my results. But I know that because I had like a good coach and because I felt like I had that like motivation, that kind of like, I don't know how to explain it. I feel like the environment does definitely matter when you are putting your players in that situation where burnout can happen. Like, I didn't feel like I reached burnout, even though my schedule leading into like summer playoffs that year was fucking insane. And I do just think it's hard for us to know what the environment in TL really is like. Like, no one can really know from the outside anything that happens inside a team, unless, you know, obviously a player comes out and just fully talks about it, right? Gives their perspective, but that's not really going to happen, you know? Even, you know, watching like the squad stuff, whatever, like that's not going to give you enough, really. Like, it will give you some stuff, but it's not going to give you enough. So you just don't know, right? Like, what the environment for their type of schedule was like. And maybe it was, you know, that's the thing, like maybe it was good. Maybe they just fucked up on stage. Maybe they just didn't show up when they needed to. Like, we don't know, you know? It's so fucking weird and hard to tell in this way. But yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they had good scrim rumors all split long. Maybe they'll rally. Who can say?
Thanks so much, Lord Audie, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Shout out to Anywhere, great sponsor. I enjoy my product with them. Thank you so much. Shout out to my wife. And thank you all for taking my call.
Thanks for calling in. Yeah, appreciate it. All right, we got another caller in the pipeline. Gangster, thank you for gifting 5 subs. Really appreciate it. Revenge, who do you think is the best team in North America and Europe if you group them all together?
Oh, shit. Maybe talk about that after, but I don't know. D2 for sure in EU, and then I think
The topic. Someone said it after you did it, so we'll get there.
okay.
Caller, how do you pronounce your name?
Littletree.
Oh, sorry, you're really quiet. Can you say it again?
Littletree.
Littletree. Where are you calling from?
Toronto.
Toronto. What do you want to talk about on the show?
How CLG, mainly Palafox and Dokla, show that they don't deserve All Pro and that they're going to finish bottom 2 in summer.
Wait, CLG is going to finish bottom 2, like 9th, 10th?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, go ahead and dive in.
CLG hater, baby.
So for the All Pro, none of their team deserve All Pro, but the only ones that were really in contention were Palafox and Dokla. And since it's a regular split award, it's really why they don't deserve it after how they played. As for Dokla, you can I think they played a total of 7 games. He played 5 games of Scion, and they were all losses. He also had the one Gwen and then the Renekton game where didn't really do anything. They didn't win off like the Gwen. Finished around 0-2. All he was doing was in the side lane. Didn't seem like there was too much pressure there. And then for me, for someone who deserves All Pro, it's like, can you be a win condition? And then it doesn't seem like he can be a win condition for his team. And then for Palafox, it's every time he was put on a champ with like agency, it's like he can get a lead, but he can't fulfill and be a win condition for his team. Even in the Jace game against EG, even when he was really fed at the end, in a 2v1, he screwed up the kill against Jojo, and then he gave away a 1,000 gold shutdown. That's what you shouldn't do as a win condition. Give away your 1,000 gold shutdown in a 2v1, right? And then after the whole weekend, you can even see on their player cams that they look extremely tilted. Going out 0-3 isn't something that brings you momentum into the next season. And then I feel like with the team environment being, or like team atmosphere being lower, you can see them falling. It's like, I think at least TSM and TL will finish above them. They, even in the regular season, they lost to Dig. They were one of the 3 teams to lose to Dig. It's pretty like easy to see them finishing bottom 2.
Who finishes in last place?
Probably Dig.
Okay.
Or CLG.
Yeah, I was waiting for
Maybe
Revenge.
Immortals. I don't know.
Revenge just found out that he's finishing higher than he did.
All right, so I'll hop in quickly here. I feel like it's a weird split for All Pro voting. I think some people didn't put any CLG members on. I put 1, so it's not like this is that crazy hot of a take to say that they didn't deserve it. It's kind of aggressively worded, but I don't think it's too wrong. The only thing I'll defend is the Palafox play. I felt, well, 1, it's a regular season award, so postseason doesn't factor into it at all. And while that bot play was a big mistake from him, his team already went from winning the game to losing it, not through his fault. Like, he won his team the game. They should have just pushed mid after Luger took Dragon, or they could have done a coordinated push and then fell back to Dragon and then reset. Like, there's a bunch of different ways they could play that sequence out where, like, it could have been okay. But like Luger just randomly leaks out bottom and just like doesn't come to his team. And then like I think Luger had a terrible series. I actually don't hate Luger as a player. I think he has pop off games, but like he's also just sometimes inting. Like there was a game where Palafox's Aurelion Soul scaled. It was the Dignitas game. He had done everything he needed to do. He was carrying his team again. And then like they're winning a fight over the Baron wall, and Luger fucking flash Xayah ults in, and then he lands and gets one shot. And it's like, well, that was not how you use your abilities.
That's how he used his.
Well, technically you can use your abilities that way, but full aggro Xayah was a choice. So like I think Luger can absolutely hard carry games. I have no problem with him, but like, hey, what the fuck was that, brother? My cat just jumped on me.
Oh,
anyways,
what a shocker.
I think Palafox had a very good split overall. He was one of my all-pro votes. I don't think that like him going 8-2 in a Jace game and carrying them, except having like one play after his team had already inted their entire lead away, is like on him. I don't think he was perfect either. I think some of his other games were quite poor in that series. Like if I was going to point to anything, it would not actually be the Jace game. If I was like going to slam him for losing, like it would probably be more for his second game, if I'm remembering correctly. His Vex game was quite bad, if I remember correctly. Like, those bothered me more than the Jace game.
Yeah, the Vex game, right? I mean,
yeah.
I will say I do think I didn't personally vote for him, but I will say that after more consideration, I did feel like I should have voted for him as my third spot for mid for sure. Palafox, I felt like he actually did have a really consistent split. I do think Dokla had really highs, like he had like great Aurelia games and stuff, but I do think like Dokla honestly had a better year last year in summer in the split that for like an argument for all pro third than he did this year. I felt like it was actually wild to me that people were considering Dokla over Someday on third all pro. When just looking at pure consistency and even games carried, like I was, and I have nothing against Dokla. I think he's a great player, and I watched his games pretty closely, and I felt like he had a lot of pretty poor games, and the conversation about Luger has been really negative lately, but I actually thought that Luger was having a really great split until he wasn't, to be honest with you. I felt like he really let his team down in the CLG series against EG, to be honest, as well.
His C9 series was great, though.
Yeah, his C9 series, yeah, and he was the bigger, like, it showed to me that his performance is probably the biggest thing that affects CLG's victories, and it's a reason why I voted Poom as my third all-pro for support, because I thought that he actually had a lot of great games with Luger to win lane and actually like translate into good team fights, and Luger was also carrying as well. Like I valued Luger and Poom really highly for the success of CLG, and I actually always have. Like that team, when CLG wins lane bot, is like they know how to win the game with a winning bot lane really well. And I don't know, I did feel like Dokla definitely got exposed in this playoffs. The whole lock-in Sion, like he lost 5 games to Sion, yeah, but it's like there just wasn't other things for him to pick in those draft scenarios. And if he knows he's a problem or thinks he can't win this way on Sion, it's partially on him as a player to communicate that with the coaches and make a plan to get a better draft. It's not just on the coaches, like, oh the coaches are picking Dokla Sion again. It's like, dude, the player has some control. Like he can talk with the coaches. He can plan better to not be put in this situation if he thinks it's such a bad scenario for him, especially after the C9 series. Like it's not all on the coaches. It's also on Dokla, and I give him critique for that. If he felt like he was tilted because he couldn't win on those Sion games, he could have made a plan with his coaches to not be in that position. So, the reality is I felt like he was a bit exposed in these series, and that also cost him games. And Luger underperformed in the EG CLG series, and that's why they got 3-0'd. And yeah, that's my take on CLG.
Yeah. All right. So just to wrap up the call, is littletree correct that CLG is going to finish in the bottom 2?
No way. Unless they like mental boom. Unless like, something happens behind the scenes and all the players decide they want to kill each other.
I think it's very low chance.
All right, littletree. There's the verdict. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
Shout out to you guys for bringing me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming in and really appreciate it. Have a good one. All right, off to the next caller. Shout out to... Oh, no. Well, our next caller is here. It's
Hi, am I on air
Ovilee.
with Hotline League? Hotline League?
Yep.
Ovilee, where are you
Hold on.
calling from?
Hi, I am calling from my bedroom, also the home of Thresh, the best dog in the entire world. Well,
Do you
listen,
have
I
a
had a
city?
hot take for you.
Do you have
A
a city? That
I
you're
don't want to dox myself, Travis.
What about a state?
I am in a state of eternal turmoil. Does that count?
All right. What's your?
I don't
what is
like
your?
the way that Revenge is laughing. I think he's laughing a little bit too familiar with me. Right
Sorry,
now.
I'm just, yeah. We're
That's,
vibing.
no, that's,
We're yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Well-
you. So listen, I had a hot take originally. My hot take originally was going to be Ovilee should try cast every single playoff game from here on out, but that's not my take for this call. I actually have a question, Travis. My question is, are you going to be doing Hotline League live at Raleigh, North Carolina this year?
I think it's pronounced Raleigh.
Rally.
Raleigh?
Rally for Raleigh.
Raleigh.
In the Carolinas. Are you doing it?
It only won Carolina.
In the Carolina, the northern one.
I do not have at this time a sponsored partner or anybody to do the show with, so I don't know if Mark and I are going to be able to do that.
Would you like one?
Ovilee May is going to sponsor Hotline League Live.
Ovilee May doesn't have that kind of budget, but her brand spanking new employer just may happen to be also providing production sets for a live version of Caster's Couch, so I think we could fit Hotline League in there.
All right. Well, I can't be sponsored by FlyQuest, but
I'm
if
very
they
dumb. Are you implying FlyQuest is doing, or is there another org that you're working with?
FlyQuest, baby! It's FlyQuest!
I can't take money for FlyQuest,
baby.
but what is this? Is this an event that's happening?
Yes, and by event, I mean there's going to be 2 magical special shows. Listen, the event is Caster's Couch, okay? That's the real event. The #1 League of Legends podcast.
What is FlyQuest putting together?
They're doing a Spring Fling, baby. Spring Fling. What's going to be at that Spring Fling? Hopefully Hotline League Live.
All right, I'll tell you what.
Hopefully no dancing.
We will do Hotline League Live in Raleigh. When is it happening?
It's going to be happening April 7th on Friday, the day before one of the first big games. And it's going to be happening in the evening, and tickets will be released shortly.
Okay. Mark, are you in?
Yeah, I'm down. I think I fly in Thursday really late at night, so I might be a vegetable for it, but yeah, I'll show up at least.
Okay. I'll show up at least is all I ever get from Mark whenever it comes to live versions of Hotline League.
Sometimes less. Sometimes you don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, is he gonna show up? No. This sounds great, Ovilee, and I really appreciate that we were able to effectively act as though we haven't had this conversation for several weeks and that this wasn't something we planned for.
No one noticed.
Now, Travis, can I please get a clippable social media bit of you announcing this to your chat on Hotline
You know
League
what?
Live?
That sounds great. I love the idea of this, Ovilee. We should do this. Let's team up at the FlyQuest Spring Fling. I will have the Hotline League Live event happen right after your casting coach episode.
Caster's Couch. Caster's Couch. I know that you look up a lot of casting couch content, Travis, but this is Caster's Couch.
Casting coach is what he said, to be fair.
Yeah, casting coach.
Oh.
I thought it was the show where Captain Flyers coaches you on how to cast. Like that clip that I saw on the broadcast.
No.
Not wrong. there wasn't that did happen once.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, thank you so much, Ovilee. Thank you. This is gonna be really cool. For those, just to, we'll wrap this up. But yes, this is officially happening. We are doing live Hotline League Friday night, right before the finals in Raleigh. So if you guys are getting in, please do that. We're going to have more time and dates and information available. We plan on having, Ovilee, we're going to do the thing where people can RSVP, yes, to secure a spot?
Yes, so we do have limited seating to about, I would say, 100 people. So we're going to open up an RSVP list just so we could get an approximate head count and probably have a wait list at the door. So when we release that, be sure to stay tuned to Travis Gafford's social media as well as the FlyQuest social media. Just a huge shout out, by the way. If you guys like League of Legends, I highly recommend following the FlyQuest account on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube right now, because that's where we are going to be posting those tickets first.
Perfect. Either way, thanks so much to Ovilee, and thank you to FlyQuest. It's cool to be partnering up with them and for them to give us the space and the production folks to make the show happen. So hopefully all of you that are coming to Raleigh will be able to tune in and see that. And actually, Revenge, I was going to ask you because you said you're going. So if you get in that night, let me know and you can make an appearance on the show if you want.
Sure. I am. I think I put that. Well, they haven't got my ticket yet, but I put Friday evening, I think, or Friday afternoon. So
you just come straight from the airport. It'll be great.
Yeah. I'll just make my way there. We'll see.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I'll let you know.
Someone has a question. They're saying, so that means no spicy takes about FlyQuest on the show. Travis, is it true that you will be showing FlyQuest favoritism during the show?
No, I think it's actually very comical when we're at a FlyQuest place and people are dogging on it on the team. I mean, we've partnered with Alienware and stuff on the past with this, and we've had it happen at the same space where they would do a Team Liquid thing, and we had people come in on dog on Team Liquid. So I think that stuff is fun. And Papa Smithy's never been somebody who's against that type of thing, so I don't think he's gonna...
we'll host a quick different segment called "Come Up with the Best Roast of FlyQuest."
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll.
Either way, thanks, Ovilee. I'll see you next
Yay!
week at Casting Couch.
Okay, I know that you have appointments with Casting Couch. All
right, off goes Ovilee. Thank you, everybody. No, for real. I hope people can make it out to Raleigh. It'll be really fun to see it. We love doing these shows. It's really fun to do them live, and I'm excited to see a bunch of you guys come out. So, Numi will be there if she gets to Raleigh in time. I haven't checked to know if she's going to be there in time, but I hope so. Morning Starts, thank you for the sub. We got TJSSlayer here. We're going to move a little faster because we have 4 calls to go and about 30 minutes left. So, TJSSlayer, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Jefferson, Wisconsin.
From Jefferson, Wisconsin. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to talk about how 100 Thieves should be happy with the results for having 2 rookie players.
100 Thieves should be happy with the results for having 2 rookie players. Go ahead and elaborate.
I believe that even though that they didn't go as far as they could have in the playoffs, having these rookies, having these rookies grow and having new talent in the league is very beneficial. It might be kind of weird hearing that because you have Doublelift and Bjergsen at the same time, so you have the old guard coming back, but bringing new talent and seeing them grow is very good to see.
So, I think the place that 100 Thieves should have been happy with is if they got 4th. If they had made it to this coming weekend, but they lost 2 playoff games. I don't know if that feels good. That's kind of my take, as I feel like they should have been able to do a little bit better, especially given some of their competition and how some of these other teams kind of flopped a bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that I think they should have beat GG. I think that it kind of comes down to inexperience and experience at the same time. So a lot of their comm videos, there's sometimes you see issues where Bjerg or Doublelift is making callouts and the rookies are trying to make other ones, and so there might be that contrast between the two. So I feel like if that can get fixed, I feel like they can definitely get it higher for a summer.
Awesome. Well,
yeah,
go ahead, Revenge.
Well, I mean, I'll say I think Tenacity and Lucio could definitely be proud about their improvement during the split. But there's no way that a roster like that was made to not, well, like Travis said, I think one, they got 3-0'd in the winners bracket, which was that's pretty rough. Getting 3-0'd anytime in a playoff series is nothing to be proud of. That you can never be proud of that happening. Even if you just, brush it off to, Fly was the better team or whatever, but obviously 100 Thieves doesn't think that. They went into a series and they got 3-0'd. That feels so fucking bad. And they don't have, they have 3 players that are decorated and known for winning, So that's not okay, and then for them, right? And then
Yeah.
the Golden Guardian series is like, man, I mean, they even tweeted it, like so many games, like they felt like the game slipped out of their hands, and like, I don't know, their level of play, the way they were drafting, it was all, it got exposed, and they weren't, I don't know. They didn't even show to play more than a single style the entire playoffs,
Yeah.
and even leading 7 games up to the playoffs. That to me is something that they cannot be proud of. So, I don't know. I do think that they are gonna have to. Well, we'll see. We don't know why they didn't change their styles. We don't know if they just couldn't, or their players weren't capable. But yeah, we have to see what they do next.
Shout out to Travis Gafford's interview with the GOAT Bjergsen after that series. I think he kind of admitted to what a lot of people on the outside had diagnosed, where it's like they were losing a lot of games. They picked up one style that was working to rally into playoffs, and then they got to playoffs and people picked it apart, and they never really had anything else to back it up. But going into summer, hopefully they go back to experimenting and trying to find more things to do. So it sounded like a short-term cope, but like that point, like I totally agree that that's not something like hang your hat on when you also have 2 of the GOATs. And like we've seen teams with rookies or young players before do well, like, EG last split. Danny wasn't a rookie, I guess. He had played 1 split before then, but they won a title with JoJo in his rookie year. Given that you had closer who had made 3 straight finals and the 2 NA GOATs, like I don't think it's unreasonable to have expected more out of them. They ended up finishing 3rd in the regular season, and like I had even predicted that, so I tried to pretend like I was like, I called this, but they definitely did not look how I 100% wanted them to look. So I doubt they're thrilled. I'm sure they're like, great, we made playoffs, and then like immediately we're like, okay, damn it.
What?
Yeah.
To kind of bring it back to TJ's point, though, Mark, what do you think of Tenacity and Busio? Because kind of focusing on the rookies, what do you think? What's their assessment now at the end of the split and their playoff run? I guess.
Revenge and I were talking about this a little bit, I believe, before we went on air, but like it felt like Revenge got morphed into the double lift top laner, which is not really.
Revenge got morphed into a double lift top laner?
Revenge and I were talking about how Tenacity got warped into the double lift top laner, where he's just on Gragas, Scion, weak side duty, and closer never path top. And like 100 Thieves Golden Guardians picked up on that. Licorice talked about it, or we talked about Licorice picking up on that and starting to play weak side carries that don't need resources like Olaf and Gwen. And even sometimes they gank for him too, but like they just knew that closer was never going to go top. They were never going to do anything tricky in draft. And they exploited it. So like we talked about like we don't know if that's because Tenacity was someone that they couldn't play around, or he took one for the team, or exactly why they chose to do this. And it was nice to see him play better in that little run they went on the regular season, but they weren't doing it in Tenacity's style that I think people were excited to see after him being hyped up.
Yeah, and I mean Tenacity showed promise in his laning when he played carries. So it's not that he's like incapable to play the carries, but playing carries isn't just an individual thing. As a top laner and as a carry player, you have to, especially in practice and in games, be able to make your team know how to win the game with having a carry top laner. That's the harder part. I think right now, a lot of players in the league can lock in Gwen against Scion and go 10 CS a minute. It's not a difficult thing to do at all. A lot of people can lock in Fiora into Cassante and make it to Sunder with 10 CS a minute and then start beating the Cassante. A lot of players can do that. But what a lot of players, especially I would say a rookie like Tenacity, probably struggle with is making the team know how to win the game with his champion. That's something that I think probably showed in scrims, and my guess is, and that's just speculation, the team probably lost trust in playing that style and winning with it, so they just dropped it because of their easier success, if you want to call it, with the other style. So I don't think that it's like, because it's such a bad narrative when you put it as like, Doublelift made him this way, and Bjergsen or whoever made this player that way. It's such a slight to the veterans and like those kind of players who are great, and I know them, and I know that that's not something that they would do to Tenacity or even to Busio if that was the case. that's why I think it's more likely to be that they were just struggling, and he as a rookie was struggling to do that. Like, so I really hate when I see the community or even like just when analysts whatever just talk about it as if like Doublelift forced this or Bjergsen forced this. It's just really not the case, I think. Just from hearing stories about them and knowing about them, because I've never played with them obviously, but I've worked with a lot of people at this point who have, and yeah, it just doesn't sound like something that they would do. They just want to win. They just want the best way to win, and yeah, that's really all I know.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it was through the first round robin and stuff that he was playing the Jaxes and Fioras, and it wasn't until basically the last 2 weeks that they settled on the one play style that I'm sure was winning them the most games in scrims.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't, and like he wasn't super consistent on those carry styles, but he did have like really high moments, like the Fiora game against FlyQuest, like solo killing Impact multiple times. Like that's not an easy thing to do, especially as a rookie. Like but there were games where he played, like for example, like Jax into Renekton, and he's losing really, really hard, right? And it's like, well, and not team fighting well, and it's like, well, after a game like that, what do you do as a staff, and what do you do as the veteran players when you're thinking like, how do we win? What's the best way we can win? Especially when you're on a loss streak, by the way, too, which is, yeah, that was probably really terrifying for them. They were like 8th place. They were like 0-7. What was their loss streak? Like I don't know.
They were 1-7 over like a 4-week span or something.
Like that's crazy with a roster of fucking Closer, Bjergsen, Doublelift to be fucking 1-7. Like, dude, they were in panic mode. They needed to figure out anything to work, and yeah, and the tank weak side style for them started working, so they stuck with it, right? So,
well,
yeah.
Either way, thank you so much, TJSSlayer, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to our next caller?
I just want to shout out the boys, all my friends. They know who they are. I'll be going to Raleigh. This will be my second finals, so that's nice to know.
Are you going to come to Hotline League Live?
I will be leaving on Thursday, and we're driving, so it'll be a while, so it might not be there.
Well, we get in on Friday.
Ooh.
We're doing the show on Friday night.
Oh, okay. We'll see. I hope so. That'd be cool.
You fucking better.
Travis
okay.
is trying to let you down easy. He doesn't want to come.
But I was there for Chicago when Cloud9 won. Go Cloud9. Hope they win. Shout out to Alienware, all you guys doing the show. Thank you to the LCS for making great entertainment. Hope to see a Cloud9 win.
Thanks so much. Catch you next time. All right.
I see. Just real quick, I see a lot of Twitch chat saying like the Doublelift forcing him to turn into that. I was memeing when I say turn into Doublelift's ideal top laner.
Yeah, you were memeing, but a lot of people.
Yeah, people are not. So I just want to be clear. Like,
yeah. I just want to make a point about it because I hear it all the time. I see it all the time. It's like it's so crazy.
Yeah.
I meme about it, to be clear, in one of my interviews this week. People asking about the location for Hotline League Live. Stay tuned to FlyQuest and Ovilee socials because she's going to be sharing that stuff there, and then I will share it on mine too whenever we have more information. All right, we got King Monchie here. King Monchie, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Indianapolis, Indiana. Once again,
Indianapolis, Indiana. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I'm here to talk about Berserker clearly being the best AD in this spring split, and that he should be a lock for MVP. Some stats are like he has the highest KDA. His farm is tied, I think, with Doublelift and Prince with like 10 per minute. And he always has bot pressure, like every game. Diverse champion pool. And also the only stat that like Prince and Doublelift really had on him was like total kills, which I don't think is fair to compare because C9 has a way cleaner execution of like closing out games, and their game time is way lower on average. So yeah, that's what I'm here to talk about.
I agree.
Did you just leak your MVP vote? Wait, they don't say we can't do that anymore, do they?
No.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna actually disagree.
Did you just leak your MVP vote?
I did. Just. Oh wait, am I not allowed to? Or
yeah, just do it. No one's watching.
It's unclear.
It's unclear. Well,
just do it.
Unclear.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
I'm just going to. I did not. I'm not leaking anything. Okay, but I'm just going to say that I think Berserker has it objectively easier to have better stats and look better than Prince. And the fact that Prince, playing with 2 rookie supports and looking the way he did.
Well, Winsome's not a rookie, technically.
Well, true. Winsome's not a rookie,
One split, though.
He played 1 split and he didn't look great in that split. And then he comes back, plays with Prince. But either way, Ayla's the main support, and that guy is a rookie, you know? And the fact that Prince was still able to come, you know, play with 2 different supports, like deal with that kind of adversity. And I'll tell you, I think playing with inexperienced supports is not. It's not only is it harder, is it going to be harder for him in lane phase, but it's going to be like harder as well out of lane. Like a lot of people don't understand that. I feel like Prince has a lot of intangibles as an AD carry, and I know this from playing CQ with him and watching his streams and everything. He's a super vocal AD carry, and I feel like he attributes to a lot of FlyQuest success that I feel like Berserker doesn't with C9. Like, I do think Berserker, by the way, and saying this, I think Berserker's a great AD carry, don't get me wrong, but he's also playing with Sven, who is literally a decorated veteran, insane support right now, number 2 all-pro, and like, yeah, and has like this huge deep understanding of botline. They've played together now for a full year. They won a split together. Like, all these things matter when you take into account how fucking good Berserker looks, right? In this kind of meta, especially.
So you're saying he gets carried?
No, he's not only getting carried, but he has it
not
easier
only.
than Prince.
It's even more that he's getting carried.
He has it easier than Prince. He just does. There's no doubt about that. He has it way easier than Prince to get better stats and to look better. But Prince, the fact that he came out the gates looking as insane as he did for that many weeks in a row consistently, and then still having a strong finish in the split, I think that shows a lot to me. And we've seen a way bigger sample size of Berserker than we have of Prince, so it's kind of hard to tell. But that's just my take so far. Like, I think that they're both at a really close level right now. I would slightly favor Prince, though.
Well, now I regret voting for Berserker because you convinced me.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might be making me regret it a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's actually such a
good
point.
You know, I'm sorry, I'm just dropping my reasonings, man. Like, it took me a lot. I thought a lot about this because fuck, man. Like, I think Berserker is so fucking good. Like, and he's a really, really great player, but he's playing on Cloud9, man. Like, he has fucking Sven. Like,
I think so. Like, I agree with all the points you made, and to go even further, like to take it to that whole like more important to their team. How many AD carries could you swap with C9 and they get roughly the same amount of wins? And how many AD carries could you swap with FlyQuest and they get roughly the same amount of wins? I think, in that sense, you can probably slot more people into C9 and generally keep winning games.
So you're saying that Prince is the most valuable player to his team?
to his team. Absolutely. That is the case I'm making.
Yeah, that
team just happens to be tied for first place. They both went 14-4, and one of them is more important. You could argue.
Yeah, that is why I won't leak it, but that's why I think that he makes a very strong case for an MVP argument.
Here's why you're wrong.
All right, let's hear it.
Berserker is more responsible with his gold in a meta where AD carries are turbo broken. And while Prince, you could argue, has ankle weights with his supports and cannot play as aggro of a bot lane at the same time, at least Berserker is doing it. It's like, I give people credit for doing the thing, even if they have better support around them. It's like, to use a sports analogy, which I hate doing, it's like if you have a really good team in basketball, usually you can find more open shots because you move the ball well, people pass better, the defense has to react to more stuff, you'll just generally get more open looks, your 3-point percentage will go up, you'll score more in theory, like these kinds of things happen. That's kind of what happens with C9 is like there's all these things supporting Berserker, but at the end of the day, he's still swishing threes left and right, and like I'm going to give him that credit. So, like, that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like, it's insane that, like, Sven will bust out Soraka, he'll bust out Heimerdinger, he'll bust out Vera support, Kalista support, Renata. Like, Sven, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, why was Sven not my first team all-pro in some ways? But I think, I think Prince didn't have as much to work with, and that's definitely one angle you can take it. I lean the other way a little bit, where I was like, Berserker did play on a more balanced team that could support an early game play style. But at the end of the day, he was also very good in the early game.
Well,
I mean, it's why it's hard, man. Like I know it's
Mhm.
really it's a fucking hard discussion.
Yeah.
now I'm happy I voted
Yeah.
for Berserker.
Agrees with whoever spoke last.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the
Recency
Reddit.
bias,
It's
which,
the Reddit
by the way,
strategy.
It's crazy. It is recency bias when it comes to this kind of voting is fucking crazy. By the way, because I mean, it does trigger me that I feel like a lot of people look at the last game that was played, the Berserker
Draven
playing
game.
Draven game, and then just go, oh, that means he's just better and that he deserves MVP and all that. It's like, fuck, man. Like, it's that triggers me, honestly. I won't lie. That does trigger me.
Can I defend Berserker a little bit?
Sure.
Okay, Prince may have a newbie support, but he also, I haven't checked the stats on this, but I assume he has a much higher jungle proximity as well, because Blabber is spending a lot more time top lane, like balancing out Fudge and Emenes's wave states and that type of thing, backing them up on all ends. And yet
I mean,
Berserker and Zivin are still hardcore pressuring bot lane all the time. They always have priority, even when Blabber's not on their side of the map, it feels like.
I'm taking a look. I'll
I don't
pull it
know.
up very quickly, but I will say that Blabber is an extremely low jungle proximity jungler, actually. In general, not just for bot lane.
And Spica, I feel like, is bot lane a lot.
But that's not always. I mean, I think that's because of their not poor laning. I'm not saying they're just poor laners, but they don't lane as consistently well, so they do need their jungler more. I agree. I don't think though that that's Prince's fault. I'm just gonna go out and say that. I think that in general, right now, and in most times in bot lane, the support is like 70-30, like, or six. I would say it's like 65-35. The support kind of decides how the lane is won and how the lane is played more than the AD carry. I'm just gonna say that. That's
That is
just
accurate.
that is just true. I think it is way easier for a worse AD carry to look good with a good support than it is for a good AD carry to look with a worse support, if that makes sense. Like, support just matters more for just lane phase pressuring and winning. Like team fighting and all that stuff, you know, it's a different story, obviously. That's all on the AD carry mainly, but I promise you support takes way more responsibility for like winning lane and, you know, doing what you're saying, not needing jungle, just fucking smashing the 2v2, all that. It's just true.
So just to chime in quickly on the stats, Berserker is the 11th out of 12th AD carries who played this split with 11.3% jungle proximity. Prince is 8th with 13.4, so not that different. In terms of proximity of opponent jungler, which is how much other teams target them, Berserker is 8% and Prince is 9%. 9% is highest in the league, tied with Neo, I guess, of all people. You like the thing about stats, you kind of have to read into them. Like Neo was losing lane and probably getting dove. I think Prince was someone that people were targeting and trying to hold down. Berserker was at 8%, so obviously also got a fair amount of attention. But yeah, I don't know. Anyways, we don't have time to keep doing. We got two more callers.
Thanks so much, King Monchie, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
As usual, Travis's YouTube channel is content with interviews and all of like the little mini games he plays with the League of Legends players, the pros, and the casters and stuff. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, look at it narrow in chat. We printed these fuck you hats for the Golden Guardians guys in like week 7 because they just had to win one fucking game to get over 10 wins, and we were gonna like pop off for them and be like, you guys did it. They couldn't win a single game in week 8, and we're like, oh shit, are we ever gonna get to use these? They barely squeak out a win. We have these 2 fuck you hats. We give them to the Golden Guardians guys for their post game interview after beating the goats, and then Anero slides into my DMs and he's like, hey man, you got any more of those hats? And it's like,
No, it's probably more like, hey man, you got any more of those hats?
Hey man, you got any more of those hats? Like, get your own goddamn hats. They're just black hats that say fuck off. Go look up custom printing hats and get them mailed to you, all right? Asking the broadcast to carry your ass with content. Come on.
Sure, guy.
Real mature guys making fun of me for my voice. Dude, and Errol, we make fun of you because we're jealous. Also, see you at
true.
draft this Sunday. You can scream at me in person. All right. Mark is grabbing our next caller. It has been 22 minutes since our last sub. I must ask, does anyone have a prime? Stealth Melon is here. Stealth Melon, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Arizona.
Calling from Arizona. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, I just copy pasted Revenge's take from earlier about how the LEC is weaker than the LCS top to bottom.
All right, well, defend it.
Or as a totality, I guess.
Defend it.
All right, bet. So this year I've actually watched more LEC than any other year. I'm normally not an LEC guy, but something about the new format and the new time has made me watch a lot of LEC. While it's true that G2 happens to be very good, a lot of the bottom half of LEC is pretty doo-doo. Though, I don't know if this is that hot of a take, to be honest. I saw everyone saying based when Revenge said this. I just wanted to kind of scam you guys and get on the show, but yeah, I don't know if this is that hot of a take, to be honest. So,
I appreciate that you scammed us.
Yeah, no problem, Travis.
Yeah.
We take low-hanging fruit sometimes. It's okay.
Yeah, we absolutely do.
Yeah, at least he's honest. The callers are almost always honest with us when they scam us, and I appreciate that. All right, Revenge. Defend Stealth Melon's take, which is actually your take.
I mean, for me, I just feel like what the format change has shown is just one, there's like a huge level of inconsistency in a lot of the teams that we're seeing. I feel like when I'm watching the games, at least in previously when I watched EU and I watched top teams play against each other, I felt like there was like just you could tell, right? There is just a higher standard being displayed in the matches, and right now I just feel like we're seeing a lot more just complete fiestas. I feel like there are a lot. I don't know. I feel like their meta is like slightly different as well, especially for top lane, relative to the other regions I'm watching. And I don't know. I feel like when I'm looking at the lower half of the table, and I don't know. I've just been pretty disappointed by their level of play. And this is me saying I felt like watching LEC last year. I literally saw. I could say with confidence they were way better than NA, and I felt like going into international they are gonna beat NA, and they kind of did, at least in MSI, right? If I'm remembering correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm just curious to see what happens at MSI. Honestly, I think it could probably end up going either way, but overall, I feel like the competition in NA this year is the highest it has ever been. Just looking at the strength of a lot of our teams, and yeah, I mean. That's why I said I just feel like NA right now is just like even when going into this season, when talking to a lot of players, everyone's saying like I don't know if there's going to be like a really bad team. Like I don't think every team is bad. Even toward the end of the split, people were like, "Fuck, man! Like Dig's not looking complete shit. Like they could maybe win. You know, like you didn't really know. Like I felt like the league was really close this year in NA, and that wasn't necessarily like a really bad thing. Like obviously it started ramping up toward the end, like. C9 was like kind of dominating, and then I think at the very end it kind of was just C9 was dominating and everyone else was kind of like, what the fuck is going on, you know? Like, so I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
Let me tell you why you're wrong. All right.
Okay.
EU are overlords until we prove otherwise. End of story. Okay.
Didn't we do better than them at Worlds last year?
What's that, Travis?
Didn't we do? Well, we had more wins than them at Worlds last year.
Based.
I mean, Rogue actually got out of groups though, or riddle me that.
Yeah. What was that experience like for them?
Could I add something to Revenge's take?
No. Okay, go real quick.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I think to add on to that, I just think that the new format for LEC, and they've talked about this on a lot of their content, like all the LEC content. I think the new format has really made it hard for the bottom teams to improve. So any team that's just terrible to start is just terrible the whole year because the splits are so short. The bottom teams have zero room to evolve, and so they're just like they're all turning into Vitality pretty much, where they're just panic subbing people in, trying to make it to playoffs, so they're not eliminated from international events the rest of the year, right? And so that I feel like that's kind of had a bad effect on the bottom of the table and maybe even the top of the table because. The meta isn't forced to evolve as much as it has been in past years, I think.
What champ are you playing right now?
What champ am I playing right now?
Yeah.
Vi, bro. I'm in my plat promos.
Wow, what a champion!
Give me your energy, fellas.
Taking
luck.
one for
Go,
revenge
let's
to give
go.
his own take to him while also playing in plat promos.
Yeah.
Respect.
Here's where you and revenge are both wrong. See, there's a
All right.
concept of skill floor and skill ceiling, and North America's ceiling is so dog shit. You know, it's like a hobbit house where everyone's got to crouch over to fit in there, and like,
Well, the
that's
hobbits
why
don't
our
have to
bottom
crouch
teams-
over.
Well, but
Based.
like we're like this is like normal teams. You know, they would have to crouch to fit in there, and then you're like in this little tiny space here, and so of course your bottom teams can punch up because the ceiling is so close to the floor. Whereas in Europe, the ceiling is just like it's a skyscraper. It's a one floor skyscraper. You know, the ceiling and the floor are just super spread because the best teams from Europe are just so good.
I haven't
It's
felt
a
that this year,
minor-
though. I haven't felt that
it's
this
a-
year. Yeah.
It's a minor miracle that Europe hasn't won Worlds with how good they are. I just don't understand how they're consistently so good and they just get unlucky every single year.
Based.
Agreed. Super based.
Stealth Melon, thanks for the call.
G2 is doing it this year for sure, though. They're clearly the gods of League of Legends again.
They
Stealth-
were until like last week, bro. Daggum.
Stealth Melon, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out while you're in your plat promos? We want to get you back to those.
You guys are studs. Appreciate the content. Thanks, fellas.
Thanks for the call. All right, we got one more call to go. Thank you. The scam train activated and then immediately crashed, but I do appreciate you guys subbing. Thank you to Duke by Fall, Salted Apples, N.A. Alistar. And then also somebody continue to sub from Sherman. I'll get you later. But knightsz is here. knightsz, where are you calling from?
Calling from Iowa.
From Iowa. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I'm here to talk about why Revenge is the most underrated top laner in the LCS.
Oh boy, here we go. All right, go for it.
I'm just saying, after watching Revenge over the years, watched a lot of LCS in my time, he has tried his hardest to solo carry a team that doesn't necessarily always have the correct pieces around him.
Okay.
I think most notably is his Aatrox game against TSM last year, where he literally 1v5'd the entirety of TSM. I don't know how much harder a person can carry. You put him on EG, get rid of Someday, who's looking a little washed. I think Revenge is your number one all-pro top laner.
I'm now understanding Revenge's philosophy on Prince getting MVP. He's like, listen, look at the team that this guy's on, and he's still doing so amazing. You really got to take into account the players that are on his team. Whenever you're evaluating a player.
I'm not gonna comment about this take because that's disrespectful to my team and my teammates who work really hard as well. But I appreciate the sentiment. I do. I said it in your interview as well, Travis, that I do appreciate these kind of takes. But obviously, it's not gonna be something I'm gonna like go into or talk about much because I do respect my teammates and a lot of the efforts they put, and I'm not gonna be delusional and just say like there was no issues and stuff, but it's like all I want, or I am happy that I've shown my consistency and that people notice it. That's all I'll say on this kind of.
I mean, I will say I've always been disappointed that Revenge has never been able to be on a team where people could see the potential, right? Because I think you stick Berserker on Immortals and he's not going to have a great time. And I'm not trying to say, Revenge, that you are as good as Berserker at League of Legends, but I am saying it. Obviously, you've been consistent for a long time. People have really enjoyed your play, and it is unfortunate, I think, for the league that you have been on teams that have struggled as much as they have during this time. So I know Revenge isn't commenting, Mark, but do you have any thoughts on this?
For the respective Revenge's teammates, of course, I won't say anything either, except get this man some fucking help.
Well, okay. The one thing I will say is I think, and I think I said this as well in our interview, Travis, but it's like I don't think, or at least I like to believe that like I can use a lot of the experiences I'm having in struggling teams right now, or in a struggling team and being in a struggling situation, and like grow from it and like eventually have that opportunity, because that opportunity and getting that opportunity is somewhat in my control. Like I could play well, but it's not all up to me, you know? Like, it's going to come down to some chances, some luck. If Org wants to take, you know, or, you know, I'm even including IMT, you know, putting more resources, whatever, right? Like, it's going to be, you know, up to that, right? And the most I can do is like take like the lessons I'm learning right now and like just grow from it and not get like mental boomed or like worse, right? And I do feel like you learn a lot from losing. Like no copium, but I do feel like my rate of improvement from losing so much is way higher. No copium.
Oh my God, Revenge is playing the long game, Travis.
Yes, I'm only losing so much right now. Yes,
He's gonna win Worlds.
Dude, he's scaling so fucking hard now. Revenge is Gathering Storm Incarnate in top lane.
Dude,
he's just
Gathering
so much experience losing that he's gonna join a top team in like two more years, and he's just gonna fucking win MVP his first split with C9 or EG or wherever he goes. Yeah.
Gathering Storm, conditioning, overgrowth, literally, like, yeah. It's and Cull, by the way. So,
playing Kale.
And playing Kale. Yeah. With first strike. That's my scaling right now.
You have 3 rune trees, what the fuck?
That's my scaling.
Thanks so much to our caller for calling in and saying some nice things about our guest. We always like to have something like this to soften the blow. knightsz, anything you want to shout out?
Shout out Alienware and just thank you guys for doing the show. It makes my
thank
work
you.
days a lot less boring.
Happy to help make things less boring. All right, have a good one.
Yep.
All right, that is the show. Stick around on stream because I'm going to be hanging out and maybe opening some magic cards. Revenge, what do you want to shout out? What do you want to plug?
Well, you know, shout out to all you guys for calling in, you know, making this show happen. Would not be a show without you guys, so thanks. Even if, you know, we laugh or meme or are mean to some of the takes, it's still fun. And yeah, make sure you guys follow my Twitter. It's Revenge League right there. I'm gonna be posting a lot more content, probably around finals, like vlogs and stuff, and telling you guys to tune in to any like Riot stuff I'm doing for content. So yeah, make sure you guys give me a follow there if you want to check out my content. And yeah, that's all.
Mark, what do you want to plug?
Shout out Revenge for coming on the LCS, being one of these not lazy pros who actually makes content. Shout out FlyQuest for doing the live Hotline League. Shout out Travis for making me do a blame game when I really wanted to, you know. So, Pog, that'll be out probably on Wednesday, right before the games.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for watching. Again, shout out to FlyQuest and shout out to everybody who's going to come out to see us at Hotline League Live in Raleigh. We do have some limited capacity, so it'll be smaller than our previous shows. It's just the way it is when you're trying to get space in a city somewhat last minute. But thank you to everybody who we're going to see there next week, which is crazy to say. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Stick around after the show, and goodbye.